Okay, I'm a math teacher and I'm just going to share one of my projects with you really quick. It's kind of like an art-math crossover project, some Escher-esque tessellations. So we're going to start with an equilateral triangle because that's a really easy shape to tessellate, but we kind of like make each side really funky so that it doesn't look like a triangle anymore. It's going to be a crazy shape, but it's still going to tessellate, and then it turns out to be a really cool project. So we're going to start with my favorite medium of all art supplies, construction paper. Just construction paper and like pencil and protractor. And the third part, I'll share some finished products from this year because we just finished ours. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Alright, so we're going to start out with a equilateral triangle here. Whether your shape tessellates accurately or not totally depends on this being right. So make sure you have exactly 60-degree angles on all three corners. Probably measure them all a couple times before you move on to the next step. Alright, the next step is to funkify one of the sides of your triangle. So I just drew that thing. You can basically put anything you want there. Just start at one end point and end at the other one. Now, you see I'm cutting this out. The principle behind this tessellating is that the same exact side, what I just changed on that one, needs to rotate and also be on another side. So since we can't exactly do that accurately freehand, what we're going to do is cut out our shape, then trace it onto another piece of construction paper. Once we've done this, we'll be able to use the one that's able to move around in our hands and then rotate the side that we just changed wherever we want to and trace it, and that way it'll be the exact same duplicate side, only in a different part of our triangle. And hold down the endpoint and rotate it over. So now it matches onto a different side. Notice that the two corners of the triangle, like those, yes, I'm pointing at them, and then the line that we have kind of serve as a guideline. Make sure that the corners match, the line matches so it's exactly where it should be, and then all you have to do is just trace that funky side onto a different part of the triangle. So now we have the exact same deformed side, but it's on two different parts. It's just rotated 60 degrees. Which leaves us with one side left to make crazy. So the other two sides fit into each other. This side needs to fit into itself, so the first thing you've got to do is find the midpoint, which I've just done, and then just transform half of it. You can do anything you want. I've done that for some reason. And again, we need to rotate that half of a side that I just made onto the leftover half of the side. So in order to do this accurately, you're going to do the same step. You're going to cut out your shape and trace it back onto another piece of construction paper. So as you can see, we've got our shape almost finished. It's just got half of a straight side that needs to be fixed. Okay, pretty much the last step we need to do is get the side that we just drew, that half of the side, to rotate 180 degrees so it matches up with the half a side that is still normal. So again, match up the corners, match up the midpoint, everything should be the same. So the part that goes in to our shape on the left now goes out, so that now this side will fit into itself because the right side fits into the left and the left side fits into the right. So now you've drawn your completed shape. Take a coffee break and cut it out, and this will be a completely transformed shape that looks nothing really like a triangle, which it started as, but since we didn't mess with any of the principles that make the triangle tessellate, it's going to be a crazy shape that still tessellates, and that's going to allow us to turn this into a pretty cool art project. At this point, you're done with all of the math or geometry that you would use in the subject, and you get to start drawing and coloring. At this point, you can also start looking at your shape and brainstorming, because for the art part of the thing, I tell my kids to look at this kind of like when you look at clouds and start thinking, what do you see in your shape? Because you're going to try to implement some kind of art design into it. Alright, so there's our final shape. Doesn't look like anything, but yeah, it tessellates. So the next part of the project that I have everybody do is get a blank piece of paper and use this as a stencil to trace it. So start in the center, because if it gets off at all, if it wasn't perfect, that way all the parts where it gets bad are towards the edges. And then just like after you've traced it, rotate it so it fits into itself, and then trace it again, and so on until you've covered up your entire page. So you can see that this shape does in fact end up tessellating because we followed all the steps correctly. Now there's one more thing that makes this project cool, and that is the art section of it. And what we do is I put out the shape and I say, imagine what you see in it. Now for mine, I saw like this little devil guy with the goat feet and wing on the back and horns. So I do that on a separate sheet of paper, draw it, make sure it still tessellates, everything works out, cool. And basically all that you have left to do is, on that other sheet of paper I showed where it's stenciled out over the same, like the whole piece of paper, just implement your design into each one of those spaces, and it ends up looking like that crazy little devil guy, but he tessellates and fits into himself all over the place, so you have like 10 of them on the same page, and it ends up looking pretty neat. So here are some ones from my 6th grade class this year. If you are a student, you should show your teacher this, because then like they'll do the project maybe, and it's fun, and it takes you out of regular boring like answering questions in math. Or if you're a teacher, you should show it because it's awesome. And if you are, if you're a principal, you should hire me because I teach in Florida.